Remove all 6 of your push clips that are holding the top of the bumper cover on. So with a trim tool, stick it underneath here, pop the center of it out. Once the center is popped out, you can remove the whole thing. And this one's different, but just go down the line and remove all of them. I have one missing here, but now the top of the bumper cover is free. Now on each side of your bumper cover, right where it meets the fender, you'll have a 10mm bolt. Go ahead and take that out. And then if you follow this down, you'll see a 7mm bolt right over here. Go ahead and remove this as well. All right, now you'll notice there are 3 push clips to be removed along the edge here. This is one of them. You'll need a fairly strong trim tool because they're tight in there. I'm going to use my cutters not to cut, but I'm going to use them because they grab onto these push clips better. And these are really tight in there. Last one is all the way down here. I'm going to use the cutter method again. Now from underneath the bumper, you have some 7mm screws and push clips that go all along. We have to remove all of those. So I'm just going to start over here and work my way to the other side. At this point, with all the hardware removed, you can pull out on both sides, just like this. Don't go too far because it'll fall. Also, I should mention, if you happen to have fog lights, you would want to disconnect them at this point. My vehicle doesn't, so I don't have to worry about it. And then pull out the other side. Hold the bumper cover and pull it straight out. Next, I want to take these pieces off, and there are 2 push clips, one at the top, one at the bottom. I'm going to attempt to get this one out. They're pretty stubborn, and sometimes they don't want to come out. There we go. Hopefully yours doesn't break like mine just did. I'll have to get a new one. That's fine. There's another one on the bottom here. This one sits sideways like this. There we go. Now you can grab this piece, flip it up, slide it out of the way. And what this does is it frees up this top radiator support slash cover. Next, there are 4 10mm bolts that I want to remove. They go all along the top. This one, however, holds in the hood support rod clip. I'm going to take this off just so I don't lose it. And now this should come right off. Let's pull this piece up. Get it out of our way. Next, I'm going to take off the 2 radiator support brackets with a 10mm socket, remove the bolt. There's one on each side. Remove the bracket. Just to make some extra space, I'm going to take off the hood latch. This radiator support for me is a little bit dirty, so when I pull this off, it's going to leave a mark where it was. It's always a good idea to mark it if you think that it's not going to get lined up perfectly when you install it. Either way, remove the 3 10mm bolts that hold this on. And you might not necessarily have to do this, but it will make things easier. Now to drain the radiator, it's going to be easiest if you take this shield down. You don't have to, but like I said, it'll be much easier. So pull this push clip out. That'll unlock it from over here. Separate these 2. Do the same to this side over here. Now you can take the whole shield, slide it out of the way. Now let's drain the coolant. There's the drain plug right there. Use some pliers grab onto the drain plug, turn it counterclockwise to loosen it up. Open the overflow cap. That'll let the coolant system breathe as it drains. Now make sure the radiator petcock is fully closed. I'm going to move this shield a little bit out of my way. It has a push clip up top. Pop this out. Now you can push it, get to that bolt a little bit easier. Unbolt it, 10mm socket. There's another bolt up here on the passenger side. Remove that too. Now you can push the AC condenser down. It pops off the radiator, and just leave it here for now. Take off 2 7mm bolts up top. Okay, there's a push pin that's hidden in here, so I'm going to pull straight out, and that should pop the headlight assembly out. There we go. And then just go ahead and unplug it and set this aside. This will just make things a lot easier to reach in here. As you can see, now we have clear access to the transmission lines as well as the lower radiator hose. Now let's take off the upper radiator hose. You can use some pliers, squeeze the hose clamp, break it free, slide it back, grab the hose, give it a couple twists to break that free, and pull it straight back off of the radiator. Set that aside. I got some small pliers on here. I'm going to use these to basically twist the hose around a little bit so I can get my other larger pliers on, because the way this hose clamp is positioned, it's difficult to get something on here. Now you can either continue with regular pliers, or I have these hose clamp pliers that are going to make the job a little bit easier. Squeeze the clamp, slide it off, release the pliers. Now we can pull this hose off. I'm just going to use a pry bar and gently pry the hose back like this. Sometimes that helps break it free from the radiator. Set that aside. Let's disconnect the transmission cooler lines, pop the plastic cover off, and then you'll see this clipped down here, which you can get with a pick. Hook your pick underneath it, just like that, and then pull it straight down. That should unlock it completely. Now the line should be free to come out. Sometimes it'll be stuck in here, but if you wiggle it, it should come out. If you need rust penetrant, go ahead and spray some. This one's not rusted at all, so it just came out. And there's a second one all the way at the bottom. We'll have to do the same to that one. Pop off the lower line as well. Fluid's gonna drip out, so make sure you have a collection bucket underneath there. Now let's disconnect the electrical connector on the fans. There's one on each. Pull up on the tab, pull the connector out, and it's actually attached to the fan right here. So just go ahead and pop this off so we can remove the assembly. Now you want to do the same to the other side. Now take the radiator and fan assembly, pull these straight up, make sure that the AC condenser stays. At this point, with the radiator off of the bottom support, I'm going to push these little tabs out like this and basically try to separate the fan shroud from the radiator. I'm going to get a little screwdriver here and use that to stick it down here and keep this clip away from the fan. Do the same on this side, or I guess I can use a pry bar here since I have more leverage. And once I pull this away, I should be able to, there we go, pop this out. Now we have to do the same to the passenger side. There we go. Now push the fans out of the way and slide them back down like this, and make sure that the radiator clears. Pull the radiator up. There's your radiator. Now pull the fans out. Take your fan assembly, slide it down in here, and I'm just going to push it further back. That way I have room for my radiator to slide in. Now let's put the radiator back in. Make sure that none of the fins get damaged by getting pressed into anything that it shouldn't be pressed into. move the fan assembly around to make room for the radiator to sit properly. And now we can line those two together, or line those two up together. So it's got a couple tabs on the bottom and then some on the top that have to all fall into place. So you'll see right underneath this fitting for the radiator hose, you have the lower part that needs to line up, and then the upper part. It's the same on the other side. And once they do line up, just press them together. Okay, that side's already in. Now they're locked together. That's perfect. Make sure the connector slides in all the way and clips over. Resecure the harness for the fan connector onto the fan here, and do the same to the other side. Okay. Get it secured. Now connect your transmission line. Start with the lower one first. Make sure it goes in all the way and it clips in and it's secured. Once it's in, go ahead and put this cap over. That'll prevent the clip from unlocking itself. Do the same to the top line. Okay, that one locked in. Put in the clip. There we go. Now let's get the radiator hose on. Slide this over, get the hose clamp reconnected. Try to position it as close as possible to how it used to be. I'm not going to put it exactly where it used to be just because of the angle of it. I'm just going to place it like that. There we go. Slide on the hose on the passenger side. And let's get this clamp back on. Okay, this one, I'm going to try to line up exactly where it was. Looks like my hose slid off a little bit, so I'm just going to adjust it. I want to make sure that it's fully seated, just like that. Let's connect the headlight and put those back in. Make sure the connector clicks in. And then you want to line up this little tab with the mounting spot in the fender. Press it in. There we go. Put these back in. Let's put the AC condenser back onto the radiator. Has two hooks, one on each side. Basically just slips up in there. Make sure it's pressed in all the way. Do the same to the other side. Just like that. And now let's bolt it on the bottom. Let's put on the two mounting bolts. Snug them up. It's time to get the hood latch back in. I'm going to start in all three of the bolts, but then I want to line it up so that it's almost exactly where it was before. The importance of this is, well, the hood needs to latch in properly, and if it's not lined up all the way, it might not. So that's an issue. So I'm going to get these close. I can still move this around, and as you can see, the marks were left over from where it was positioned before. So I'm going to hold it in that position and tighten them up. Okay, once one is tight, it'll stay. Let's put the radiator support back on the top here. Put in the rubber piece and then line this up. Start in the bolt. Do the same to the other side. And snug them up. Let's put this piece on. It lines up. It's got a groove here. This groove lines up with this on the radiator here, and then you just press it down and it should lock in by itself. Let's put in the top piece. Start in all the bolts. I'm going to start in all the bolts before I tighten any of them down. This one had the bracket with the clip for the hood support. So now that they're all in, let's tighten them up. Let's put this push clip back for the little shield on the side here. Let's get this bottom shield in. It has two holes on the subframe that these little pins line up with. Slide it up and in, just like that. And then had a push clip over here. The push clip for me actually just stayed, so I'm just going to reconnect it. Reconnect this. There's a push clip over here. lock it, do the same to the other side. There we go. Let's get this shield back in. Line it up. There's a push clip at the top and one at the bottom. Here's the bottom one. Let's do the same on this side. Let's get the bumper on. Okay, line it up, press it on, pull the bumper in and press it into the slot underneath the fender here. Let's put some push clips in up top. Make sure you lock them in. Let's line up the 10mm bolt on the top here. Seven millimeter screw on the side here. And 3 push clips. Now you do the same to the other side. Put all the screws in underneath on the splash shield. I'm going to start with the center one, that way it can be held up in place. One more screw all the way at the end here. And 2 push clips on each side. I'm missing this one over here, and then do the same to the other side. Now let's add some coolant to our system. Keep in mind you want to add a manufacturer specified fluid. If you're not sure of what to use, check your owner's manual. Once you add coolant in here, go ahead and fill it to the max line. And then what you want to do is actually go inside the vehicle and turn on the engine. Turn the heater on and let it run until it fully warms up. That way the coolant can circulate. Keep checking the level as you let the vehicle run. It most likely will go down, so top it off as needed. And then once the vehicle has fully warmed up, the cooling fans have come on, shut it off, let it sit and cool down, and then top it off again if needed. Then at the end, you can go ahead and put your overflow cap on, make sure it is nice and tight, and then you can take it for a road test.